In this episode, we turn to one of the most visible parts of an information security program, but also one of the most misunderstood. Security awareness and training are often treated like simple communication tasks, as if the goal is merely to tell employees a few rules and hope they remember them when something suspicious appears on a screen. For a new learner, it is much more useful to see this area as a long-term effort to shape judgment, build safer habits, and help people understand how their everyday choices affect the organization's risk. That matters because many security failures do not begin with a dramatic technical flaw. They begin with a rushed click, an overlooked detail, a weak decision under pressure, or a misunderstanding about what should be reported and when. From the perspective of the Certified Information Security Manager, CISM, awareness and training are not side activities that sit outside the real security work. They are part of how an organization makes security practical, repeatable, and human enough to survive in a busy business environment where people are making decisions all day long. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A strong starting point is understanding the difference between awareness and training, because beginners often hear those words together and assume they mean exactly the same thing. Awareness is usually about attention and recognition. It helps people notice risks, remember key expectations, and stay alert to behaviors or situations that could create harm. Training goes further by helping people develop the knowledge and skill needed to perform their responsibilities correctly and consistently. A short reminder about suspicious email patterns may build awareness, but deeper instruction for a system administrator on access control responsibilities is training because it supports a specific job function. Both are necessary, but they serve different purposes. Awareness helps keep security visible in the mind of the workforce, while training helps people do their roles in a way that supports the security program. When organizations confuse the two, they often produce shallow content that tells people to care about security without giving them enough practical understanding to act well when real situations appear. The next idea that matters is the reason these programs exist at all. Many people assume awareness and training programs are mainly about compliance or annual requirements. But that view is too narrow to support a mature security culture. The deeper purpose is to reduce the chance that people will become weak points in the organization's defense, while also strengthening their ability to notice, avoid, and report issues early. Employees touch data, systems, devices, customers, vendors, and communications every day, which means they are constantly encountering situations where security decisions matter even if security is not in their job title. If they do not understand how risk shows up in normal work, then the organization is depending on luck far too often. Awareness and training help translate security from something abstract and technical into something connected to common business activity. That connection is essential because people are more likely to respond well when they understand how a risky email, an unusual request, a lost device, or poor data handling affects trust, continuity, and the organization's responsibilities to others. An engaging program begins with audience understanding rather than content production. One of the biggest mistakes in this area is assuming that every employee needs the same message, the same examples, and the same level of depth. In real organizations, the workforce is diverse in role, experience, access level, pressure, and decision-making authority. A finance employee handling payment requests faces different risks than a software developer, a help desk technician, an executive assistant, or a senior manager approving vendor access. If everyone receives the same generic material, much of it will feel remote from the actual choices people make in their own work. That weakens attention and reduces retention because learners naturally tune out information that seems unrelated to their reality. A stronger program considers audience segments and tries to connect content to the kinds of situations those groups are most likely to face. That does not mean creating completely separate worlds of instruction for every role, but it does mean respecting the fact that relevance is one of the most powerful drivers of engagement. People listen more carefully when they can recognize themselves in the examples. Relevance matters so much because adults usually learn best when they understand why something is important and how it connects to tasks, responsibilities, and consequences they already recognize. Security awareness often fails when it sounds like abstract warning language with no connection to real work. Employees may hear that data matters, passwords matter, reporting matters, and suspicious behavior matters, yet still feel unsure about what that means during an urgent request from a manager, a strange login prompt, or a call from someone claiming to need immediate help. Engaging training closes that gap by placing security concepts in familiar settings. It connects protective behavior to scenarios people can imagine without turning the material into a complex technical exercise. This is especially important for beginners because too much jargon creates emotional distance from the topic. When content feels simple, concrete, and tied to everyday work, learners are far more likely to remember it and act on it later. A good program does not try to impress people with security vocabulary. It helps them recognize patterns, slow down when needed, and make safer decisions under normal business pressure. Another important principle is that engagement is not the same as entertainment, even though the two ideas sometimes get mixed together. An awareness program can be lively, interesting, and easy to remember without becoming childish or disconnected from real risk. Engagement means the learner is mentally present, understands the message, sees its relevance, and feels capable of using the knowledge in practice. That may come from strong examples, clear storytelling, well-timed reminders, thoughtful discussion, or concise explanations that respect the learner's time. Entertainment alone can create momentary attention without real learning if the content is too flashy, too generic, or too focused on being clever. Security leaders should therefore think carefully about what makes people care. Often it is not novelty by itself. It is credibility, clarity, and the feeling that the material speaks to real choices they will face. An engaging program respects the audience as adults with jobs to do. It does not lecture them endlessly, but it also does not pretend security is a game with no serious consequences when attention fails or risky behavior becomes routine. Leadership support is another major factor in whether an awareness and training effort becomes meaningful or stays superficial. Employees notice quickly whether security messages are reinforced by managers and senior leaders or whether they are treated as formal obligations that everyone rushes through once a year. When leaders visibly support the program, refer to its importance in business terms, and model the expected behavior, employees are more likely to believe the effort matters beyond compliance. That support also helps when the program asks people to slow down, verify unusual requests, or report problems quickly even when doing so interrupts normal flow. Without leadership backing, employees may worry that raising concerns will be seen as inconvenience or delay rather than responsible action. A good awareness program, therefore, includes visible alignment between the security team and the broader leadership structure. Security should not sound like a separate voice shouting from the edge of the organization. It should sound like part of how the enterprise protects customers, supports operations, and carries out its responsibilities with discipline. That sense of alignment gives training more weight and makes the message feel less optional. Timing and frequency also shape engagement in powerful ways. A program that appears once a year and then disappears is less likely to influence daily behavior than one that stays present through shorter, more regular contact points. People forget, priorities shift, and new risks appear in ways that do not respect an annual calendar. This does not mean employees should be flooded constantly with messages until security becomes background noise. It means the program should create a manageable rhythm that keeps important ideas fresh without becoming overwhelming. Short reminders before travel periods, focused lessons after new threats emerge, role-specific refreshers during process changes, and practical follow-up after incidents can all help security stay connected to lived experience. Repetition matters because memory weakens over time, especially when people do not use a concept every day. But repetition must be thoughtful. Repeating the same bland message in the same format can create fatigue instead of learning. A stronger approach returns to key ideas from different angles so employees keep seeing the same underlying protections as part of an ongoing habit-building effort rather than as isolated messages that vanish after completion. Content design matters just as much as cadence. An effective program chooses a small number of important messages and expresses them clearly enough that employees can recognize when to act and what kind of action is expected. When training tries to cover too much at once, learners may leave with a vague sense that security is important, but no clear idea what behaviors matter most in their own role. A more disciplined design approach asks what decisions employees must make, what errors are most likely, what signals should prompt caution, and what reporting path should feel normal and easy. The content should focus on those needs instead of trying to turn every employee into a security specialist. It should also use language that ordinary staff can understand without feeling talked down to. People are more likely to absorb guidance when it is direct, respectful, and connected to recognizable situations. Overly polished slogans or generic warnings can sound empty if they are not paired with useful explanation. Good content design helps employees know what to notice, what to avoid, when to pause, and how to get help without feeling that security is asking them to become technical experts overnight. Delivery methods deserve attention too, because the way a message is delivered shapes how it is received. Some lessons work best in short written reminders, while others benefit from discussion, guided examples, manager reinforcement, or role-based sessions that allow people to ask practical questions. There is no single delivery method that fits every audience or topic, which is why mature programs blend approaches over time rather than depending completely on one annual course. The goal is not variety for its own sake, but rather selecting methods that support attention, understanding, and memory in realistic business conditions. A workforce that spends the day moving between customers, devices, meetings, and deadlines may need content delivered differently than a team working mainly inside structured system processes. Accessibility matters as well, because employees cannot benefit from training that is too hard to access, too long to finish, or poorly adapted to how they actually work. Delivery should support the content rather than distracting from it. When method and message fit the audience, the program feels more natural and useful, which increases the chance that people will carry the lesson into daily behavior instead of leaving it behind at the end of the session. An engaging program also creates room for reporting, feedback, and learning from real events. Security awareness is much stronger when employees believe they can ask questions, raise concerns, and report suspicious activity without embarrassment or fear of being blamed for every uncertainty. That kind of environment supports earlier detection because people are more willing to say something when something feels wrong, even if they are not yet sure whether it is serious. Training should therefore reinforce not only what risky situations look like, but also how the organization wants people to respond and why quick reporting matters. Feedback loops are important for the same reason. If employees report issues and never hear anything back, they may begin to assume reporting is pointless. If the organization uses incidents, near misses, or recurring confusion points to improve future content, then the program becomes more grounded and adaptive over time. Awareness is not just a one-way broadcast from the security team. It becomes much more effective when it is part of a conversation in which employees can contribute observations and the organization can learn where its messages are clear, where they are weak, and where new guidance is needed. Measurement is another critical part of developing these programs, but it has to be handled carefully. Many organizations measure only completion, which is easy to track but tells very little about whether the content was understood, remembered, or used in real work. Completion matters because it shows the program reached people, but it does not prove behavior improved or that risk meaningfully changed. Better evaluation looks at a wider picture. It considers whether reporting has improved, whether repeated mistakes are decreasing, whether high-risk groups need more targeted support, and whether employees demonstrate better judgment in the situations the program was designed to influence. Even then, measurement should be interpreted thoughtfully because behavior is shaped by many factors beyond training alone. A rise in reporting could reflect better awareness, more suspicious activity, or both. A drop in one type of error may hide weakness somewhere else. Strong security leaders use metrics as signals for learning rather than as decorative proof that the program is perfect. The most valuable measurements help the organization refine messages, improve timing, and better understand how employees actually interact with security expectations over time. Common mistakes in awareness and training programs are worth recognizing because they appear so often across organizations. One major mistake is relying on fear alone. as if people will become safer simply because they are shown enough damage, punishment, or worst-case examples. Fear can capture attention briefly, but it often fails to build confidence or practical skill. Another mistake is treating employees like the problem instead of treating them like partners in reducing risk. When the tone feels accusatory, people may hide mistakes or disengage from the program altogether. Generic content is another weak point, especially when examples are so broad that learners cannot tell what actions matter in their own setting. Programs also fail when they are disconnected from policy, reporting paths, leadership behavior, or the actual tools and processes employees use every day. In those cases, the content may sound good in theory, but still leave the workforce unable to act well under pressure. Strong programs avoid these traps by focusing on realism, clarity, trust, and steady reinforcement instead of trying to solve a human problem with one annual message and a completion certificate. Over time, the most effective awareness and training efforts become part of organizational culture rather than separate campaign material. That does not mean security needs to dominate every conversation. It means the workforce gradually comes to see careful behavior, responsible reporting, and verification under uncertainty as normal parts of professional conduct. Culture grows through repetition, example, and reinforcement from both systems and leaders. When managers support secure behavior, when employees see that reporting is taken seriously, when policies and procedures match the training message, and when incidents are used as learning opportunities instead of only as blame events, security begins to feel embedded rather than external. This cultural effect is one of the real long-term goals of a mature program. It is not simply to complete awareness activities on schedule. It is to help the organization behave more thoughtfully and more consistently when security-relevant situations arise. A security program becomes stronger when people across the business feel that protecting information, questioning unusual requests, and following safe practices are part of doing good work, not separate tasks imposed by another department. As we come to the end, the central lesson is that developing engaging information security awareness and training programs is really about helping people become active participants in risk reduction rather than passive recipients of rules. Strong programs distinguish awareness from training, connect messages to real work, respect the differences among audiences, and reinforce learning through leadership support, practical content, useful delivery, and regular follow-through. Weak programs usually fail because they are too generic, too infrequent, too disconnected from daily reality, or too focused on completion instead of behavior. For a new CISM learner, this topic matters because security management is never only about technology and policy. It is also about human understanding, human judgment, and human response under ordinary business pressure. When awareness and training are designed well, they do far more than remind employees to be careful. They help build a workforce that notices risk earlier, acts with greater confidence, reports problems faster, and supports a security culture strong enough to make the rest of the program more effective.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.